Welcome back. So, this is the last hockey game I will review until the NHL season starts. So, there you go. 8 days from tonight, hockey season starts. We got 5 games on the schedule that night, and I'll be here to review them all. And I'm looking forward to that. And this was a great game. I have to say that Team Canada tonight faced a team that had the perfect game plan. This is the, and I want to say this too. This is the only country that could have done this to Canada. This was really a tournament of two teams. Once we got past, I'll say the second period between the U.S. and the Russians, where the Americans were slow to get things going. Once we got past that game, once we got past the second period of that game, the U.S. really wasn't challenged that much. And it's not that they blew other teams out as much as it's just they did what they had to win. And we saw it again tonight. Now, it was Levi versus Knight. Both of them Florida prospects. Now, in this tournament, I've had people say, I'm not that confident in Knight. I understood that after the first game, but since the first game, there's been nothing to that. Spencer Knight has been great. Devin Levi has been excellent as well, but Knight is still ahead of Levi on the Florida depth chart, and I think tonight's a good example of why. So, when you look at this game, it really is a tale of Canada just couldn't beat Knight. That's, in the end, what ended up happening. But there's more to it than that, so let's get into it. Canada gets, of course, last change. Didn't really matter tonight. The U.S. had the answer for whatever line they put out there. U.S. last won gold versus Canada in 2017 in a shootout. Did not need a shootout. In fact, overtime was hardly used in this tournament. This was a great tournament. Everything done in regulation. Not really much to argue about in this tournament at all. Newhook had an early chance, same as last night. So you're thinking, all right, right out of the gate, Canada looks good. Levi was sharp early. Lots of skill displayed early in this one. Byram was denied by Knight. The shots were 5-2 for Canada, 7.5 minutes in. And then it turned. The game made a turn. There's just this, everything's going pretty well, and then it makes that bank, that turn, and Canada just never really fully caught up at that stage. So Levi stopped York as USA got some pressure. This is York's 20th birthday today as well. Caulfield was stopped twice, and the U.S. taking over the game. Canada was reeling, and it led to a Turcotte goal from Hellison and Zegras at 13:25. Remember, Turcotte and Zegras now are enemies. Once this game's done, that's it. It's done unless they see each other again at the Olympics or another tournament of some sort, because you got to think this is their last World Juniors. That's it. So they have good chemistry here. They won't see that at the NHL level. One of them's in Anaheim and one of them's in LA. Perfect deflection. The first 5-on-5 goal scored against Canada, and that's trouble. Canada has not allowed a 5-on-5 goal at all coming into this game. Zegras then almost got one, and Canada definitely reeling at that point. With 3:22 left, Brink tripped Barron. Canada gets a power play. They ended up with 2 shots. It was a good power play, but as you can see, it was unsuccessful. So in the first period, the shots were 13-9 for the U.S. So going into the second period, it's 1-0. All right, if Canada can rally from, it's Zegras from Kaliev at 32 seconds. So again, Kaliev will not play with Zegras. It's not going to happen. But if you're a Kings fan and you're watching this, you have to go, hey, Turcotte, Kaliev, I'm happy right now. So there's a lot of reasons if you're a fan of a California team, other than San Jose, to look at this game and say, hey, we're going to be interesting to watch this year. Maybe not a championship team, maybe not even playoffs, but at least it's going to be interesting. The USA then pressured for another. Levi stopped Farinacci, but the U.S. was winning puck races. This was a game where they were just a step ahead of the Canadians at this stage of things. Canada really wasn't adjusting well, and you could see there was a game plan from the Americans, and they went out there and they went after it tenaciously. I noticed too that, and this is the first time I've seen this in this tournament that's been this obvious, that there was a lot of cursing and swearing going back and forth, and it feels like really for the Americans this was their game. This was, okay, we have to beat Canada. And from Canada, it felt like it got to be more and more frustrating for them as the game went along, obviously. More chances for the U.S. at 5 minutes. Canada just a step behind. Caulfield had a chance on a rush that went wide. And I thought to myself, a third goal cinches this. And this is before the halfway mark of the second period. I'm thinking, this becomes 3-0. It's done. Americans are not going to allow 3 goals. Spencer Knight's not going to allow 3 goals. Pelche takes a penalty. U.S. gets a power play. And then Byram ends up hitting a post shorthanded. Byram had a good game in the third. He had a couple of missteps. I thought they were trying to force the puck too much in the third, but we'll get to that. Byfield missed the net as Canada tried to push back. Schneider, it looked initially like he missed the net on a 2-on-1, but Knight actually deflected it. So it was a really nice move by Knight. And Canada was doing some line juggling at this point. And it's never a good sign if halfway through the game you're like, okay, we've got to change up the lines. That usually means you're behind. You don't normally do that when you're ahead, right? Levi robbed Hellison as the Zegras line again pressured. Berard missed wide. Honestly, if you're a Ducks fan and you're getting a jersey this year, I'd throw Zegras on the back because this kid, I think, is going to be fantastic. Just throwing that out there. Knight then denied Zary, and there's a lot of skill on both teams. Let's be clear with this. Connor Zary had a good game tonight too. Both rosters are so deep, where every name, every guy that was touching the puck, I was like, these guys are just, this is such a really good matchup. Both teams are excellent. Bobby Brink then beat out an icing call. Johnson with a last-minute chance. So Brink beats the icing, passes it off to Johnson, and Johnson gets a chance out of it. And this is the kind of stuff. And when Brink won that icing call, or won that icing race, I thought, what's Canada doing here? But I don't know. Were they just anticipating an icing? And Brink's like, oh, I'll go get the puck. But anyways, we go to the third with a 2-0. And this is right around where I had the U.S. jersey on during the second period. I was like, this is the American game. Americans have got this. So in the third, Zegras missed an early chance high, but he's so fast. And again, I put on the board, he reminds me of Jack Eichel. It's a comparison that I have watching him. He takes over the game. He can make a line look fantastic. He's just got this ability. And again, it's Eichel that comes to mind. There's other players that do it, but he's got that wow factor, that star factor. We don't know that it's going to translate at the NHL level. We have no idea. But it should. And all the scouts will tell you it probably should. And does it happen this year? That's the question mark. You never tell which guys are going to, be fast out of the gates at the NHL level and which ones won't. Knight then stopped a Byfield chance, pitching the shutout. I put the word shutout on the board early in the third because I thought he's not allowing one. Canada taking shots from all over, some desperate hockey. Knight saves, I thought, his best game for the gold medal against Levi. I'm not saying he looked down the ice and went, oh, yeah, we're both owned by Florida. I'm going to have to outduel that guy. But it happened, so I'm sure he's not upset about it. And Canada pressed at 9 minutes. They just weren't getting enough in the slot. So they were getting shots, but they were all from the outside. And as I'm writing this, Ray Ferraro says the same thing on the TV. He said they're not getting anything in the center of the ice. So the U.S., they're saying, yeah, we'll let you tee off. Take as many shots as you want. But A, our goaltender's going to see them. And B, you're not getting them from right in front of the net. You want to tee off, do it from the point. Do it from a bad angle at the boards. Try it from behind the net if you want. It's not going to happen. You're not getting those shots from the point. The U.S. defending very, very well. Canada's effort was there. So I know there's going to be comments like, oh, Canada just choked. No, this wasn't Canada. It's one of those narratives in sports that drives me crazy. Just because a team loses doesn't mean they choked. This was, and not only that, that takes away from what the U.S. did. I'm giving 110% credit, which is insane because you can only have 100%. I'm giving all that credit to the U.S. for what they did. And so if I turned around and go, well, Canada choked, it takes away from what the Americans did. It takes away from the reality that they came out and played a great game. Krebs had a chance in what could only be called a yard sale, where just bodies all over at the U.S. net, and it somehow stayed out. The Canadians were not getting any bounces. This is one of those games where it's like, well, if there's one bounce would go in, if just that puck that hits Knight's pad, if it just goes under instead of hitting it, we'd have a different game. It'd be 2-1. Beniers then got one to Caulfield, missed wide. That Beniers kid is fantastic. So over the last couple of weeks, I've learned about Beniers, much like with the Finns. I've learned about Lambert. Pretty good kids that are eligible for future drafts. The puck was under Knight with 5:31 left, and Canada's just running out of time. The U.S. kept boxing out the Cousins line. So Dylan Cousins has been very good at driving to the net. and very, very good at figuring out how to do this and get those chances. And he was just getting boxed out. And the comparable I'd use there might be Elias Pettersson in Vancouver, where you've got that move, and if they can box you out, you're going to have a hard time that night. So Cousins, I thought, had a tough night, which again was more about the defense that was being thrown at them by guys like York and Hellison than it was about anything Canada was failing to do. Zegras to Turcotte then almost connects with a little over 3 minutes left. And then McMichael had a break. It was defended well. And, of course, it doesn't connect and end up in the net. They pulled the goalie with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. The goalie goes back in after a stoppage. They pulled the goalie again with around 1:40 left. You never got the feeling that Vancouver... you just never got the feeling. Canada... It might be some PTSD strokes getting in there. You never got the feeling that Canada was going to get one, much less two. So they just it wasn't going to happen. Spencer Knight was a wall. So the shots were 13-9 US after the first, 10-7 Canada after the second, 14-1 in the third in favor of Canada. Final shots 33-21 for Canada. So if anybody wants to say, well, Canada didn't really show up, they had 33 shots. They had tons. Not a lot from in front because the U.S. said, no, it's not happening. So this is a team for the U.S. that has 15 members of the National Development Team program. I think they deserve a large amount of credit for the success that the World Juniors now have, that the Americans have at the World Juniors. The National Development Team program is really, really good. And this tournament, again, shows that these kids are developed properly. And I've always said when we get into these tournaments, the U.S. has 10 times the population of Canada. It's not exact, but it's like basically almost 10 times. There's no reason that if the U.S. ever took up hockey like Canada does on any level, that they wouldn't be able to put together super teams every year. And the number of Americans in the NHL would eventually eclipse the number of Canadians. It's just pure math on that, right? This is their fifth medal, fifth gold medal, I should say. 2004, 2010, 2013, 2017, and now 2021 for the Americans. So, this is now, I think this is the hockey power matchup, U.S. versus Canada. And I think that's been on and off the way of it for the last couple of decades, with, of course, Sweden being in there, Finland being in there, and the Russians will always be intimidating. But there just seems to be that animosity in a Canada-U.S. game that we don't get in any game between Canada and another country, and even like last night against Russia. It's just not the same. Against the U.S., the animosity gets in there, the swearing gets in there, the sticks come up, these guys don't like each other. The obsession with one country beating the other is definitely there. Levi saved 19 out of 21. I thought he played well. I did. But Spencer Knight, 33 saves for his third shutout of the tournament, which ties Levi for the lead in the tournament. And Knight looks fantastic. So if you're a Panthers fan right now, you have to feel good about Spencer Knight. After a rough opening night against the Russians, he was fantastic. This is why, when you're talking about goaltenders in this tournament, it can be hit and miss, but they're young. Goalies, again, they're young in this tournament. Players of the game, Canada, they named Byram as the player of the game, and Knight ends up being the U.S.'s player of the game. One amount of kudos I want to throw out there as well, and I don't know that any kids from this tournament would actually peruse the videos, but you never know, they might watch this. I don't know why they're in it, but I will say this: I am very grateful to the kids for agreeing to play in this tournament, for being willing to go into this bubble environment. Very few on the American or the Canadian team had played games this season before this tournament started. And so they had very little time to ramp up. They had very little time to get comfortable. And there were some European players that had played in the European leagues, and there was some belief that maybe the U.S. and Canada might end up behind the eight ball that way because they weren't in game shape. Both Canada and the U.S. performed admirably in this. Canada comes out of it with the silver, the U.S. with gold, and I can only say that these two countries the heart and soul displayed by the Americans and the Canadians, it really is something else. Again, considering how long a lot of these kids had gone since their last game in any level. With the junior leagues in Canada, the WHL hasn't started, OHL hasn't started. They don't know when those are going to start. The QMJHL is supposed to get going again here, but everything's basically closed down. So a lot of these kids haven't played this year yet, and this was their baptism by fire. So kudos to them. I'm very proud of Canada. I'm very proud of the States too, to be honest. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching and for all your support throughout the tournament. I've been very impressed by the numbers for this tournament. So next year when the juniors come up again, there will be definitely more coverage than there ever has been on the channel, because this year showed me, yes, the interest is there. We'll get into it. So thank you guys so much for all that. I've enjoyed the growth the channel's seen through this as well. So that's awesome. And hey, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again in 8 days with a review of actual NHL games, and we'll have all the boards prettied up by then, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again. I'll talk to you guys soon.